My name's Chris Oechsli. I'm the president of a foundation, the Atlantic Philanthropies, that is just completed 35 years and $80 billion of grant making in over 20 countries. And we are in the process of launching one of our final phases in grant making, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today as it relates to building fairer and more inclusive societies. But I first want to just acknowledge what the Haas Institute has done and what John's leadership in particular has done for communities like ours. All of us who are present here today have been touched in some way by their work, not only through this conference, but through mentorship and thought leadership. Thank you very much, John, and your colleagues for what you have done for us. We've all been talking about what we're witnessing, a rise in economic insecurity, nationalism, xenophobia, and it's not just in our country, it's not just in Europe, it's all over the globe. There aren't easy answers to this trend. We know that. We've been hearing about that. We will continue to hear about the complexities behind those. These results, these outcomes, didn't just happen in the last 10 years. As Doug reminds us, in the US, we have more than a 50-year history of racial division behind some of the division that we face today. These are not simple issues. They will not be resolved in a short period of time. And we need spaces like this for diverse groups of people to come together to imagine new narratives, to imagine new structures, systems, and policies that are going to build and sustain more inclusive societies. And the effort does begin with us. And finding opportunities to contribute are challenges because, as I said, we're not going to resolve these problems in a short term. They required, as our speakers have reminded us, a very sustained engagement. But we also can't just substitute one ideology for another, a phrase that one of our directors, Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, asks us to consider in the work that we do. We can't just engage in a battle in which we win and somebody else loses, and I think we owe John a huge debt of gratitude in continuing to remind us about what our challenges are in building inclusive societies. We need to build new frameworks, and I think the framework of othering and belonging helps us understand those diverse differences and challenges, and I think that has been the hallmark of this gathering and one that really helps us understand how we can build these inclusive societies. And I'm, as I've said, very grateful to Haas for the work that we have done. They have done with us and others. As I said, Atlantic recently concluded $8 billion in grant making in primarily 8 countries. Many of those countries also reflect tremendous conflict and diversity. Countries such as Northern Ireland, where we've had tremendous divides over the years. Vietnam, a home to 54 ethnic minority cultures who suffer disproportionately, in particular with respect to access to quality health, which is something we worked on. South Africa, Kumi Naidoo's home. How many of you know that there are 11 national official languages in South Africa, which reflect the diversity of culture? Or that South Africa itself suffers tremendously from xenophobia and issues of immigration from other parts of Africa, which have led to great division and violence in that country. Australia, a country that's been home to over 100, today over 100, and probably over 200 before Europeans came, indigenous communities with different languages, different cultures, different visions for what they would see for their respective futures. So diversity lies globally and all around us, and the solutions to belonging and creating inclusive and healthy and fair societies are not ones that we just look at here in the US, and they're not simple to address. So as Atlantic looked to conclude its grant making, we struggled with what the most impactful way to address these challenges could be, and with the counsel of John, Naila, colleagues at Haas and Berkeley, among others, we have made the decision to invest almost 2/3 of $1 billion in fellowship programs that speak to the bridges and leadership and narrative gaps that John and others have addressed. And those programs really do have an Atlantic flavor. We happen to have landed in countries like South Africa, Vietnam, Australia, Northern Ireland, Cuba. And so some of our work has grown out of those specific environments and the issues we've historically addressed. But underlying them all is this recognition that striving for equity and inclusive and fairer societies requires bridges, requires leaders, requires addressing narratives that change cultural norms or reorient cultural norms around the aspirations that are common to all humanity. And so our final act will be to invest in these. We are also involved in a co-funded effort with the Ford Foundation to address specifically the power of narrative and to introduce the fellows and a broader community to understand how narratives can be used to recalibrate, reframe, revision, re-envision what societies can look like. We have here today several people who are involved in our racial equity initiative, of which John has been an integral part in advising us and continuing to advise us. And Kavitha Medirata, Tasha Tucker, Susan Wilcox are here. I hope you'll have a chance to speak to them about these programs. We also have Penelope Brook, who represents the Atlantic Institute, an effort to bring cohesion and amplify the work of these various initiatives. So I hope that you will have a chance during your stay here to meet with them. Please check out atlanticfellows.org, our nascent website for this work. I just want to thank you. My listening and interaction with you here has been very educational, and I'm grateful for your input, and I hope that you will remain in touch as we build these communities for stronger, healthier, and more inclusive societies. Thank you very much.